Luxury cars are built for speed, power, and status. But when things go wrong, the results can be deadly. In this video, we'll look at 5 real stories of disturbing car crash deaths involving high-end vehicles. Cases that ended in destruction, confusion, and tragedy. These are not just accidents, they're warnings. It was November 8, 2020, in Harare, Zimbabwe. Genius Kadungure, known to many as Ginimbi, had just left his mansion in Domboshava. He was driving his Rolls-Royce Wraith, a car worth about $500,000. It was around 5 a.m. Ginimbi had spent the night at Dreams nightclub, which he owned. The occasion was the 26th birthday of Michelle Amuli, better known as Moana, a growing influencer and fitness coach. The plan was to continue the celebration somewhere else, but they never got there. Earlier that night, Ginimbi posted a video on Instagram. He appeared lively and excited. He posted that they were going out to pop champagne. That was his last post to his more than 600,000 followers. In the car with him were Moana, Malawian businessman Limumba Karim, and a woman from Mozambique identified only as Elisha. Karim was wanted in Malawi for his connection to a 2013 government fund scandal involving more than 24 million British pounds. He had moved to South Africa to avoid being arrested. Witnesses said the group seemed happy and intoxicated as they left the club. The streets were mostly empty. As they drove along Borrowdale Road, a man named Danny Kuwanga saw what happened next. He said Ginimbi's car passed him at high speed and then tried to overtake another vehicle. That's when it collided head-on with a blue Honda Fit coming from the opposite direction. The Rolls-Royce spun off the road, hit a tree, and burst into flames. The Honda Fit was damaged on one side, but its driver and passenger survived with only minor injuries. The scene around Ginimbi's car was far worse. Kuwanga said the crash was so intense that Ginimbi was thrown from the car. He landed nearby, conscious but clearly in distress. Kuwanga and 3 others helped move him from the wreck. One witness said Ginimbi was shaking and calling out for help. Within 5 minutes, he lost consciousness and passed away. The other passengers were trapped inside. The impact had jammed the doors. People nearby could hear them screaming for help as flames spread. Bystanders tried using buckets of water and tree branches to control the fire, but it didn't work. The fire grew too quickly. Moana, Karim, and Elisha could not escape. Their bodies were burned beyond recognition. Emergency crews spent hours recovering them from the wreckage. The police later confirmed the deaths. A statement from Assistant Commissioner Paul Nyathi said the vehicle caught fire after colliding with the Honda Fit while trying to overtake. Moana had made a name for herself in Zimbabwe's entertainment industry. She was featured in music videos and was active on social media. Her father, Mr. Ishmael Amuli, was heartbroken. Their relationship had been strained after she separated from her husband in 2017. He said he disapproved of her lifestyle, which he believed went against their faith. He raised 5 children on his own after parting ways with Moana's mother. Karim's background made the crash even more controversial. Though his exact role in the fraud case was unclear, his name had long been tied to missing public funds. Elisha's full identity remains unknown. Ginimbi had become one of Zimbabwe's most well-known figures. He started his business at 17 and built a fortune between 7 million and 76 million British pounds, mostly through gas and petroleum. But he was better known for his wealth and luxury cars, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Bentleys. He often threw lavish parties, some costing up to $50,000. However, he had also been investigated for financial misconduct. Police had seized several of his cars over unpaid import duties. At the time of his death, one Bentley was still in police custody. He was also related to Mary Mubaiwa, the estranged wife of the country's vice president. The crash stunned the nation. Crowds gathered at the scene. Public figures, fans, and close friends came to mourn. His sister Nelia and manager Shally were deeply affected. Funeral plans were underway for all 4 victims. Moana's burial faced delays due to religious customs and family disagreements. The police continued their investigation, though it was clear that speed and reckless driving were factors. One witness said Ginimbi tried to help his friends, but the car exploded before he could. That morning, 4 lives were lost in an instant. Just hours earlier, they were laughing and celebrating. Then it all ended with fire, chaos, and silence. It was January 2022 in Voula, a seaside suburb south of Athens, Greece. Tzortzis Monoyios, a 45-year-old businessman from Mykonos, had just picked up his brand-new red Ferrari 488, which cost around £250,000. It was a car he'd looked forward to owning, a sleek, powerful machine. That evening he took it for a drive for the first time. His wife, Athina Kontopanou, was in the passenger seat. Tzortzis wasn't just a businessman, he was well known across Greece. Back in 2003, at age 23, he appeared on the Greek version of the reality show The Wall. At the time, he was a computer science student. His calm demeanor and appearance made him stand out. He even had a brief relationship with fellow contestant Sissi Giannakopoulou, which didn't last long but kept him in the public's memory. After his time on television, Tzortzis moved back to Mykonos and launched his own clothing brand, Georgi, opening 2 stores. The business took off, and he became a familiar figure both to locals and tourists. He and Athina had 2 children and lived a quiet family life. But that night, things went terribly wrong. Just 3 kilometers, or under 2 miles, from where he picked up the car, Tzortzis was driving along Constantinou Karamanli Street, close to Pigodakia. The road there is coastal and narrow in places. At some point, he reportedly tried to avoid a pedestrian. In doing so, he lost control of the vehicle. The Ferrari veered off the road and slammed into a tree. Witnesses said the engine roared loudly just before impact. The crash crushed the front of the car, and it caught fire immediately. Greek singer Stan, who had been driving behind them, saw the crash happen. He rushed to help. Athina had been partially thrown from the car and was close enough to be pulled away. Stan managed to get her out just before the fire spread. She collapsed nearby, seriously injured. Tzortzis, however, was still inside. A relative following in another car also ran to help but couldn't reach him. The flames had spread too fast. Tzortzis was trapped behind the wheel and couldn't be saved. Video footage taken by bystanders and later shared by Greek news sites showed the Ferrari completely engulfed in flames, reduced to blackened metal in seconds. The drive had lasted only minutes. Emergency services responded quickly. Firefighters put out the fire and recovered Tzortzis' remains. Athina was taken to the General State Hospital of Nicaea. She survived, but her injuries were serious. Police began an investigation right away. They reviewed nearby camera footage and reconstructed the events leading up to the crash. There was no evidence of another vehicle being involved. Early reports suggested Tzortzis may have reacted to avoid someone on the road, and the Ferrari's power, combined with his inexperience behind its wheel, might have played a role. The crash left a deep impact on the country. Tzortzis' sister, Katerina Monoyios, a member of parliament with the New Democracy Party, received countless messages of support. People remembered Tzortzis not just for his time on television or his business, but for who he was. Some reports claimed Tzortzis was thrown from the car. Others said he was trapped inside. What's certain is that the Ferrari was destroyed in seconds and he didn't survive. Athina lived thanks to the efforts of those who rushed to help. Her condition remained uncertain in the early days, but she pulled through. 3 years later, Katerina spoke publicly. She said their family was focused on raising their children with memories of who he was, gentle, calm, and well-loved. The investigation is still open, but the early findings suggest that no other car was involved. Just a moment of reaction, a powerful car, and a road that didn't allow for mistakes. It was December 2024 in Dallas, Texas. Just after 3 p.m., a black McLaren hypercar worth $400,000 sped down Abrams Road in the Lake Highlands neighborhood. This was right near Forest Meadow Middle School, and students had likely just been released for the day. Traffic was beginning to build. Witnesses said the engine was roaring, and the car was moving incredibly fast. Then, in an instant, everything changed. Inside the car were 2 men, 29-year-old Cristobal Flores Espino and 31-year-old Robert Leroy Rocha. They were driving through a neighborhood full of families and kids walking home from school. As they approached the intersection of Abrams Road and Royal Lane, something went wrong. the McLaren lost control, veered off the road, and slammed into a large tree. The impact was violent enough to split the vehicle in half. The front section wrapped around the tree. The rear section was thrown more than 30 feet down the road. Pieces of the car were scattered across the street and sidewalk. Cristobal and Robert didn't survive. Emergency responders from Dallas Fire Rescue arrived quickly, but both men were already gone. The damage was so severe that rescuers had to use heavy tools to reach the wreckage. This wasn't a normal accident. It was total destruction. Another vehicle, a gold Toyota sedan, was also involved. A woman was driving it. She crashed into a separate tree and was taken to the hospital with injuries that were not life-threatening. Her car's front end was severely damaged, but she survived. The crash was so loud that nearby residents rushed outside. Several called 911. Others recorded what they saw. Photos and videos later posted online showed just how extreme the impact had been. The McLaren was barely recognizable. The front half was crushed around the tree. The rear half sat alone on the road, almost intact, but completely separated. The vehicle was believed to be a McLaren 570S coupe. It's known for its high performance, equipped with a 3.8-liter twin-turbo V8 engine. It can go from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 3.2 seconds, and its top speed exceeds 200 miles per hour. It's not made for city driving. It's a high-powered machine built for controlled environments. Police immediately shut down Abrams Road, especially the area near the school. Investigators arrived to measure skid marks, mark debris, and collect evidence. At first, the cause of the crash wasn't clear. Lieutenant Tremise Jones told reporters the next day that investigators were still looking into what caused the crash. They were reviewing every possible factor, including speed, distractions, and mechanical failure. There was no sign that police were chasing the car, and it hadn't been reported stolen. No substances had been confirmed at the time. The location of the crash added to the seriousness. This wasn't a highway. It was a school zone, where children walk home and crossing guards help families get across safely. Driving at high speed here wasn't just risky. It was dangerous for everyone nearby. Photos of the crash spread quickly online. People were shocked by what they saw. A car worth hundreds of thousands, torn apart like paper. The next day, candles and flowers appeared at the site. Locals came to pay their respects. Though Cristobal and Robert weren't public figures, their deaths deeply affected the neighborhood. The McLaren's carbon fiber frame is designed to handle extreme impacts. But even with that level of protection, the crash was too severe. The front was crushed beyond recognition. The rear section where the engine is was launched away but couldn't protect either occupant. No safety features could make a difference at that speed. In Dallas, the woman driving the Toyota was later released from the hospital. She began helping police with the investigation. Her account gave them a better idea of what happened just before the crash. The official cause still hasn't been confirmed. Investigators are reviewing all footage, vehicle data, and witness statements. They're trying to determine whether it was speed alone or if something else triggered the crash. This all took place just under 10 miles from downtown Dallas. A powerful car like the McLaren 570S wasn't meant for roads like this. And when that kind of power is used in a school zone, the outcome can be devastating. Cristobal and Robert lost their lives within seconds. A normal afternoon turned into a scene of destruction that no one could forget. Investigators are still searching for answers, and two families are left trying to understand how it all happened. It was September 2023 in Sardinia, Italy. A group of wealthy tourists was driving through the countryside near the small town of San Giovanni Suergiu. They were part of the Sardinia Supercar Experience, a luxury rally where participants drive Ferraris and Lamborghinis through scenic areas and stay in upscale resorts. Among the group was a red Ferrari Portofino carrying 67-year-old Marcus Krautli and his 63-year-old wife, Melissa. The couple were from Wallisellen near Zurich, Switzerland. Marcus was the head of a logistics company with offices in Switzerland, Belgium, and Portugal. Melissa worked in human resources at the same firm. The two loved traveling luxury and fast cars. This rally, which cost between £10,000 and £21,000 to join, was one of many adventures they had done together. Also in the group was a blue Lamborghini Huracan, driven by Indian billionaire Vikas Oberoi, the head of Oberoi Realty, a company that develops luxury properties and hotels in India. His net worth is estimated to be $3.6 billion. His wife, Gayatri Joshi, a Bollywood actress best known for her role in Swades, was in the passenger seat. On that day, the group was driving north from Fort Village to Morris along the 195 Sulsatana State Road, a narrow two-lane route through rural Sardinia. What was supposed to be a smooth drive soon turned into a deadly accident. A German police officer on vacation captured dashcam footage that showed what happened. A white camper van was ahead of the supercars, slowing them down. Some of the convoy's drivers had already been seen ignoring traffic rules earlier that day. The narrow road left little room for safe overtaking, but the drivers seemed impatient. The video shows the Lamborghini attempting to pass the camper. At the same moment, Marcus in the Ferrari tried to pass both vehicles from behind. The Lamborghini swerved into the Ferrari's path. The two cars collided. The Lamborghini hit the camper van, flipping it onto its side and blocking both lanes. The Ferrari veered off the road, hit a grassy embankment, and burst into flames. Thick smoke rose into the air. The fire quickly spread, trapping Marcus and Melissa inside. Witnesses said they heard screaming. Emergency responders, including firefighters and an air ambulance, arrived quickly. But the fire had already destroyed the vehicle. Marcus and Melissa did not survive. Photos from the crash site show the Ferrari upside down and burned beyond recognition. The Lamborghini had landed at the bottom of a slope surrounded by dust and smoke. The camper van lay on its side across the road. Inside the van were a 61-year-old man named Lorenzo and his 62-year-old wife. They were tourists from northern Italy. After the crash, they found themselves sideways in their seats. The couple managed to crawl out and were later treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Vikas Oberoi and Gayatri Joshi were uninjured. Gayatri was seen sitting on the ground crying, while Vikas stood nearby in shock. Police began investigating immediately. All three vehicles, the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, and the camper van, were seized for examination. The dashcam footage given by the German officer became a key part of the case. It showed the Lamborghini crossing a solid white line, which in Italy means overtaking is not allowed. Though Vikas Oberoi had not been formally charged, prosecutors placed him under investigation for what Italian law calls double road homicide. If found responsible, he could face up to 7 years in prison. He was not barred from leaving Italy and returned to India shortly after the crash. Footage posted online later showed other rally drivers running red lights and ignoring traffic laws, suggesting that unsafe behavior was common during the event. The Sardinia Supercar experience is marketed as a high-end driving tour. Participants either bring their own luxury cars or rent one. For Marcus and Melissa, what began as an exciting trip ended in tragedy. The crash destroyed 3 vehicles, took 2 lives, and left others traumatized. Investigators are still working to determine exactly who was responsible. It was early Sunday morning, October 2nd, 2022, in St. Petersburg, Florida. 3 teenagers, 15-year-old Mario Bonilla, 15-year-old Keandrick Lang, and 16-year-old Malachi Daniels, were walking through a quiet neighborhood. Most people were asleep, but the boys weren't just out for a stroll. They were checking cars to see if any had been left unlocked. Lang used his shirt to pull on door handles, trying not to leave fingerprints. They weren't after any specific car, just trying their luck. Then, at a driveway near 62nd Avenue North and 28th Street North, they found a white 2016 Maserati. It was unlocked, and the keys were inside. Lang got into the driver's seat, Bonilla sat up front, and Daniels climbed into the back. What they didn't know was that a sheriff's helicopter was flying overhead. It had been deployed for another case nearby, but happened to catch sight of the boys going from car to car. The deputies in the helicopter watched as the teens entered the Maserati and immediately called ground units to report a possible car theft. Lang pulled out of the driveway and turned onto 62nd Avenue North without turning on the headlights. It was just after 3:20 a.m. Deputies in marked cars activated their emergency lights to stop the vehicle. Lang hit the gas, believing he was being chased. But the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office follows a strict policy. No chasing vehicles unless certain conditions are met. A supervising sergeant told deputies to slow down, and they backed off to around 35 miles per hour. The helicopter kept following the Maserati. Lang sped up, fast. Just seconds before the crash, he was going 123 miles per hour. None of the boys were wearing seatbelts. Lang lost control of the car. It jumped a curb, slammed into a business sign, and flipped, landing upside down in a parking lot next to a building. The Maserati was destroyed, folded in half from the impact. Deputies arrived within seconds. Bonilla, in the front passenger seat, didn't survive. Daniels in the back was critically injured and rushed to the hospital. His condition was described as life-threatening. Lang was also taken to the hospital with serious injuries, but was expected to live. The entire event, from the theft to the crash, was recorded by the helicopter. The sheriff's office later released that footage during a press conference. The video showed Lang using his shirt to open the car door, the teens getting in, and the car speeding off with headlights still off. Just a minute and a half later, the crash occurred. Investigators found a .25 caliber handgun inside the wrecked car. It hadn't been legally registered since 1968 and was believed to have been passed around illegally. None of the teens had valid driver's licenses. While none had extensive criminal histories, they had been showing troubling behavior. Just a few weeks earlier, on September 11th, the same teens had been stopped by deputies in nearby Kenneth City for wandering around a neighborhood early in the morning. Officers contacted their parents, and the boys were taken home. No charges were filed. After the crash, investigators spoke to the families. The parents were heartbroken. One father had even moved his son to a different school, trying to change his path. But that night, all three had left home without anyone noticing. Sheriff Bob Gualtieri said the teens had been making poor decisions, though they hadn't yet faced real consequences, until now. The car's owner, who had left the Maserati unlocked with the keys inside, was contacted. At a press conference, the sheriff stressed the importance of locking vehicles and not leaving keys inside. One choice changed everything. One teen died. Another may never recover. The third survived, but now faces serious legal consequences. All because of an unlocked car.